everyone, this is Serverless Camp Week 1, Step 3 by Bit Project. My name is Emily, and in this video, we'll be going over HTTP requests, how to read API documentation, and how the internet even works, basically. This is the basis of the protocols that your computer uses, your browser uses, to get web pages from the internet. And it's how you're actually seeing me talk right now. So let's get started. This one's called Getting Cat Pics with Postman, which is basically what we're going to be doing. And in this one, we're going to be using a new application called Postman. So if you haven't done so, make sure to follow the directions and get that ready before you begin following through with this video. We're going to be using an API called the Cat as a Service API. And the first thing we're going to do is read and explore the documentation. And I want to talk a little bit about why documentation is important and what it even is. So first off, introducing the Cat as a Service API. It's basically, if you think about it like this, it's a service that returns cat pictures. So you can request for a picture and it'll give you back one. That's all it does. And you can also add options to it, like text, maybe a filter, maybe change the font color, font size, stuff like that. So you can see an example right here. Let's take a look at the documentation. Basically, what documentation does is it literally tells you how to use something. And in this case, it's telling us how to use the API. It tells us if you want a random cat, you would use this URL. If you want a cat with a tag, you would use this, and etc. If you want the cat to have text on it, it's saying something, you would use this format. So it's kind of like telling you how to format things to get specific responses. And this is important because you never want to try to guess how to make something work. You could reverse engineer it, but it's not very productive. So before we actually work with the Cat API, let's figure out what the logic is behind all of this, like what the infrastructure is, like how it actually works. So first off, let's talk about the cloud. Now you might have heard people talk about the cloud before, like cloud storage, but cloud is actually referring to servers that are accessed over the internet. So it's not really in the cloud somewhere. It's actually in a server somewhere in some remote location that you probably don't know where it is. They're located in data centers all over the world. All right. HTTP requests. So a server is a computer that provides data to other computers called clients. So we are clients, or well, our computers are clients. And a server is somewhere out there that has the information that we need, and our clients, our computers, request for that information. So, and they use the protocol called HTTP to do so. So that's why when you go to a page, you might see HTTPS, HTTP. Those are all the protocols you're doing to get that information from a server. All right, what are APIs? So you might have heard me talk about APIs. I said the Cat as a Service is an API, and you might be wondering what that even is. So an API is something that lets two different pieces of software talk to each other. And you can read that analogy there, but I like to think of it as you're simplifying your code by not having to write something else again. The API might do something that allows you to do one less task. For example, with the Cat as a Service API, I don't have to write another piece of code or create a database that has a bunch of cat images in it, because the Cat as a Service already has that service for me and I can just use it. So that's typically what APIs do. Okay, let's get started with Postman. So we can go ahead and play around with it. Hopefully we already had Postman set up and ready to go. Let's look at how to build requests, and we also want to look at the API documentation. So before we get started in Postman, we can get familiar with it right in our browser. So if I give you an example, you can see these are all the basic URLs you would append on the bottom, on the end of the Cat as a Service API. And if you look over here, they have a give me a cat button, so let's go ahead and link that in a new tab. If you did that, if you opened it in a new tab, you just made your first API call. Your browser by default makes GET requests, which is basically, let's say you were in a restaurant, you're trying to order something from the waiter. The waiter is kind of like the API. You tell the waiter, I want this. The waiter goes back and brings you back your food. That would be like a GET request. It's returning you something, it's giving you what you wanted. In this case, the cat is saying hello world, but I can just as easily change it to saying cat. Look at that, and it gives you another new cat image with the specified text right here. So our job is to play around with the API using the documentation, and we want to make it say serverless. Well, in this case, the URL provided makes it say serverless. So I'm going to go ahead and copy paste that into Postman. Awesome. So let's just take a look at and see what happens when I click send. So it returns back this cute cat that says serverless, which is expected. Now you might be wondering how we came up with this URL. Let's go back to the documentation. So if we want the cat to say something specific, it tells us here that we need to append this at the bottom, at the end of the URL. It'd be cat slash says slash the text we want to say. So we could even make it say Bitcamp. And if we send that out, it should return Bitcamp. Now let's dive in a little deeper and talk about the different options. What if I wanted to make the text a different color? What if I wanted to make a different size? What if I wanted something more specific? And that's where parameters come in. So if you look over here, it says, how do I set the parameters? Let's take a look at that. So it gives us a couple options. We can use color, we can use size. So let's give that a try. I'm going to make the color of the font blue. So as you can see here, I'm on the tab parameters, and I'm going to put in color. I'm going to make it blue. So once I send that out, look at that. I got a new, well, it's actually GIF this time, but it is the color blue. The font is the color blue. So that's how a parameter works. And make sure you see here that this thing is appended on the end of the URL. That is the format for sending a parameter. You would do question mark, and then the name of the parameter equals whatever the parameter's value is. And that's basically just sending extra options to the API that specify what we specifically want. So how about we add another parameter? Let's call it, I think it was size, if we look on the instructions. I'm just going to make it 100. Now look here, see what the Postman appended on the end of our URL. We had, it depends on and, which separates the two parameters, and then the name of the parameter, which is size, and then whatever the value is. So let's send that out again. And you can see the size of the font drastically increased, so we can see that our parameter did the job. All right, I think that's about it for this step, but let's go ahead and check. So send this, and all right, so the instructions do say that it wants a serverless picture, so you would just go ahead, very simple, change this to serverless, send that out. All right, we have serverless written on it. I'm just going to copy paste this image if it lets me. Okay, so for some reason Postman isn't letting me copy paste this image, so I'm just going to go ahead and save this to a file instead. I'm going to save it to downloads, and you can just go ahead and click upload here. So click here, and if you click preview, GitHub is really nice. It shows you the image that you attached, so As you can see here, our cat picture is up and we have serverless written on it. All right, I think that's it for this step. So just to recap, we went ahead, talked about APIs, talked about how they worked, what the purpose is, and we worked on building our own requests, our own HTTP GET request with Postman. So these skills are going to be something you're going to use later on. So to move on, just go ahead and comment the picture. Don't click close the comment, just click comment. All right, and I'll see you guys in the next step.